Hi everyone, Shua Allegra here, and I'm back with another friend. It's been so nice this year inviting my friends on the show and talking about different topics that relates to life in general, all the things that maybe some of us are not talking about and should be talking about. So today I have my friend Anne with me, and I'll let her introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you're located, all that good stuff.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Anne, and I live here in San Diego, California, with my husband. We have three grown daughters and two grandchildren. And I'm an author, a spiritual director, and a leader of trauma groups.
Yeah, so today we'll be touching on some of that, all of that actually. Um, so let's start with the book. Why did you write this? No, what book is it? The title of it, and why did you choose to write it?
Well, I actually have two. The book is called Not Alone: Transforming Trauma and Accompanying Survivors.
Mm,
And the workbook is called Not Alone: A Christ Centered Recovery Process for Women Who've Experienced Physical, Emotional, or Sexual Trauma.
mm,
So, what happened is in midlife, I had a crisis that was very painful.
mm,
Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, it should have been a 5, but I made it a 10.
mm,
And I didn't know why. And I was stuck. And that was a time where God was inviting me to come away with Him, not literally, but to spend time alone with Him and silence and solitude. And I also went into therapy. And there I discovered how my childhood wounds affected me.
mm,
I was molested by my best friend's father. They lived in our neighborhood.
mm,
There were a lot of us little girls. It was like a Hansel and Gretel story: fun, candy, parties.
mm,
Yet there was this evil witch, or should I say monster.
mm,
And so all that came out in therapy, and I realized it had affected my self-worth, and at times I struggled with confidence. So I was also seeing my spiritual director, and then I was spending a lot of time alone with God, engaging in various spiritual practices.
mm,
And although therapy is necessary and insightful, the deeper healing has come from God.
mm,
And then something stirred inside of me to step out and share my story. So as I started sharing my story, other women started sharing their stories with me. And I just, something nudged me to gather all these stories and all these spiritual practices, and I put them in a workbook and started leading groups. And after the first group, a couple of the women said, "You should publish this." And so both excitement and a little
mm.
nervousness
Yeah,
stirred inside of me, but I started writing, and then after a few years, I published the books.
yeah, yeah.
My passion is to help other people become free.
Yeah. So congrats on the book, and I think just from all of us in um not just the trauma field as professional, but I think for all of us in the trauma survivors, thank you, because it's something that we don't talk about, and like you said, it was something that happened when you were a little girl, and it wasn't until midlife that it's like, oh, this is still impacting me. We tend to now bring those things up, and we don't realize that when we don't talk about it, it actually leaves more damage, does that more damage than when we do talk about it. So thank you for not only giving all of us a voice, but also providing a resource that's needed. And I definitely am with you with the whole intersection, if you want, of therapy and spiritual practices, because we need that. And I remember when I was in therapy, years back, I love my therapist, and I learned so much from it. And I remember um, also being, having a great pastor, having great, brothers and sisters in Christ that I could friends in the faith who were there praying for me but my friends in the faith didn't understand my, the challenge I was dealing with emotionally and mentally. And then my therapist was not understanding what I was dealing with spiritually, how I wanted to bring my faith into everything that I was doing, because that's an important part of who I am. And honestly, it was through that experience, now looking back, that's how even my own company started, because I wanted to provide a place for people to be able to, intersect, if you want, their faith in their mental and emotional wellness, because it's so important. Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you for bringing all of that, to light. So with the book, so now you're writing the book, you wrote the book, you published, and you're doing the groups. What has helped you, I guess, for yourself, what's helped you the most in your journey? I think you touched on that already a little bit, but among those spiritual practices, maybe you have a favorite that you want to share with us.
Well, definitely who's helped me the most is God. Jesus is the wounded healer. And there's so many, but one thing that I do every day is I reflect on my day
Mm,
and I ask, where did I feel God's love for me today? Where did I feel peace today?
yeah.
What brought me joy today? Simple practice just like that helps me pay attention to the gifts He's given me and the joy I feel.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go through life just doing, right? Like we have to get up and you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you shower, or how whatever, you eat breakfast, you go to work, you take care of kids. So there's life is made of so many doing, right? So many things we have to do, tasks that we have to accomplish, that often we don't take the time to just reflect, take that pause and think about, okay, where am I right now? What do I need right now? Like you said, and how has God even been touching me and blessing me for all of this? So that is one practice that I use as well, and encourage everyone. And you don't even have to always, block a whole hour if you don't have an hour, but even just a few minutes, and taking time to pause and reflect. And not just waiting when you're in crisis, because when you're so overwhelmed, you don't know what to do next. You're like, okay, it can still work in that time, but it's even harder if you have not been practicing the skill. There's no overtime. So really make it a practice, and it doesn't take 5 minutes. Honestly, you can start there. And it can be as simple as when you're eating your breakfast, stopping there, or if it's at dinner time or before you go to bed, but really making it a routine. And I think I find that the more we prioritize certain things in our life, the easier it is to make them a routine. And when they become routines, then we reap the most benefits from it.
Another really helpful practice, favorite of mine, is called imaginative prayer. And that's putting yourself in the scripture and just allowing God to speak to you. And one of my favorites is the bleeding woman. She was bleeding for 12 years and no one could help her. And then the day when Jesus came through her village, she got empowered to reach out and touch him and get the healing she needed.
Mhm.
And after that happened, what does he say? He calls her daughter. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. And I
Mhm.
love that he calls us his daughters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when we've been through trauma. Not only, like you said earlier, it does affect our self-esteem, it also affects our identity. You wonder, who was I before this happened? Who could I have been if this had not happened to me? So to know that we have a God who calls us daughter, regardless what we've been through, that our identity in Him is secure and sealed, no matter our experiences. I mean, that's not just a beautiful thing, but it's such a peaceful, graceful thing that we all need. And it's that alone, that truth alone, it is worth so much, because many of us need that as like a key to our own healing. It doesn't matter what, people didn't do or people did to you, but God's love has not changed for us, and that sustains us.
And
Yeah.
as you may know, Shu, it's sad, but many women I journey with were abused by a parent,
Yeah,
or
sadly.
they were sexually abused by some other relatives and the parents didn't do anything or protect them.
Hmm.
And so they often might believe that lie that I'm not loved or I'm not valued as a daughter. And
Mm.
um, God, God can certainly give them that as He's given that to me.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So beautiful. So now, in addition to the writing and running the groups that you do, how else are you using your experience to help others? Is there anything else that you have not shared with us yet along those lines?
Well, I do offer speaking, and I offer workshops on
Mhm.
how to accompany survivors.
Mm.
Because with the Me Too movement and the sexual abuse reports all over the news, more survivors are stepping out. And so many have told me all the hurtful things that people say
Mm.
and do, and even in the church. So I started seeing that need as well.
Yeah.
And I do these on my own, or I have a colleague. He is my age and also in training to be a spiritual director. And he is a survivor of molestation by a Catholic priest.
Mm.
And he has a beautiful story of healing and forgiveness and being empowered. Uh, Such a great inspiration for men because,
Mm.
as you know, this happens to men too.
Right.
So we do that together, go to various churches or organizations. And I have a section on that in my book as well.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's good. I think that what happened was good. What I'm saying nice is saying that you're taking a step further, not just supporting people who've been abused, who are dealing with that trauma, but helping others help them too, right? Because that's important. Because sometimes I've seen this, in my own life and seen this in lives of many people that I've, had the privilege to walk with on their journey. People go to therapy, people will, see a Christian counselor or get the support they need in those type of professional and, specific ways. And then that's not where they live, right? That's not where they work. That's not where they spend most of the time. So the 1 hour therapy would have been maybe good, but then they go home. Then they go to work. Then they go to church. And they hang out with people all the time who not just don't get it. Not that those people are mean per se. Many of them just don't get it. And
Right,
out of that not knowing, they say or do things that actually traumatize people without realizing it.
right.
So yeah, so education is needed at all levels. So thank you for doing that. So
It's,
what would go ahead.
I just want to say that it is, I believe it's unintentional. I think most people just don't know what to say and do. I
Yes.
agree.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So what would you tell anyone who might be going through similar things?
Well, I'd want to say you are not alone. You can be empowered. You can step out. You can take your life back. You don't need to stay in a victim mentality, and you don't need to believe that lie that something is wrong with you
Mm.
or that you're not enough or that somehow you cause this abuse, as many survivors do. Abuse has no excuse.
Mm.
It has no excuse. So I would say step out, share your story with someone safe, find a really good therapist, and find a really good support group. These things were so helpful in my life. And most of all, I would say spend time with God. He loves you more than you know.
Mhm.
And people say, well, why did this happen? Why did he allow it? Why didn't he stop it? And I don't have answers for that. Um, I do believe there's evil in the world.
Mm.
I know God does not cause trauma, people do.
Yes.
And I know that he was grieved over what happened to me. He was angry about it. And he's been with me every step of the way through my healing. And I know that now that I'm valued and loved, and he's given me this confidence, and I have a purpose, which is to share my story with others.
Yeah.
And this may not be your call, and that's okay. But I do encourage you to spend the time with God, because you can live in more of the abundant life, which I believe is love, joy, peace, patience, hope, courage, internal freedom. You can live more in that. And again, he just loves you more than you know.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for those words. And I know, I needed to hear those, especially back then when I needed the most. And I'm sure right now, anybody listening, watching, need to hear that as well. Um, so what will you tell, I guess, what can the church do to support others? I know, you guys give presentation on this, and, for the time that we have, maybe just, a couple wisdom nuggets, if you want, to help people just start doing this a little better. How can the church support people who've been traumatized or abused in any way?
Well, the first thing is, if someone does share their story with you, just listen.
Mm,
You don't need a degree to offer compassionate listening. And by that, I mean, don't interrupt, don't try to fix or advise. Offer a compassion statement such as, I'm sorry that happened to you, or that must have been painful for you. I assure them it was not their fault. Again, I'm going to say it, abuse has no excuse.
mm,
And try to put aside any judgments. Like, I knew a woman who was date raped, and people felt, well, you shouldn't have gone out drinking with him, or you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have been wearing that. And so put aside any judgments. Um, After you've spent some time listening to their story, I would ask them, what do they hope for? Or what are they searching for? This way maybe they're searching for a therapist, or maybe they're searching for a support group or a mentor.
mm,
Um, this way you can find out or maybe they just wanted to share their story with you. And then I would have a list of referral sources, I do, of good therapists and organizations and support groups.
mm,
Um, and then thank them for sharing their story with you. Hold it as precious and keep it confidential.
mm, mm. Yeah. Well said. And I like how you said you don't need a degree to be a compassionate listener. Um, and when we don't know what to say, it's okay to say nothing. You don't need to say anything when you're listening. And sometimes I think that's the fear that people have. It's like, oh my goodness, if someone walked in my door here, whether it's at church or a friend, even at home, even my own child, and tell me this happened, I don't know what I'll do. Well, start by listening, just reminding them that you're there. Like you said, that you're sorry that this happened, but I'm here. We'll get through this together. How can I help? Rather than starting to think about, like you said, the fixing and yeah, just no human being, even those of us with degrees, right? No human beings can fix another one. And I, even with counselors and therapists and you know coaches, I tell people, I often kind of grinch when I hear people say, well, I can fix this and the X, Y, and E issue. It doesn't matter, if it's trauma or not, because when we start taking that role of fixing someone, there's something not so kosher with that. Because I think not only one, the person has to be willing to change, willing to do the work, no matter what we're working on. And then two, only God can bring true transformation in someone's heart with the person allowing God to do so. Right. So I can provide help. I can provide all the tools that I know. I can, pull out all the certifications out of my head and all the degrees. At the end of the day, if the person's not ready or the person doesn't want to, it's gonna be meaningless. Right. So we should not be so quick to fix, but rather support people. And also just think about it, even your own life. If I'm struggling with something and someone, it could be as simple as, I don't know, fixing a curtain rod in my house, like, which is actually a real situation right now. That we bought the curtain thing, it's just not working, and I'm like, this is getting too much. So if I'm struggling with something like that, someone comes and start barking orders at me, do this and do that, that's not supportive. I'm like, I've tried, maybe I've already tried so many of those, but if you don't take the time to listen, you wouldn't know what I already tried. Right. And also, if you're already barking order and tell people what to do, you're taking away their own sense of control, the sense of power that they need, especially when people have been traumatized. Trauma in itself is a loss of control, less of power. Someone had power over you, and
Right.
that made you feel, feeling out of control and out of, powerless. So if somebody else come and think that they're helping by fixing, and they're just barking orders, they're literally re-traumatized, putting you in the same situation where you felt powerless. Although
Right.
their suggestion might be good, but not giving you power to, to walk on that healing journey, that will not help you heal either. It just keep you in that cycle of being dependent on people, and hence the idea, like you said, the feeling of not feeling worthy enough, not, low self-esteem, because power was taken away.
Right.
So as we support people, like you said, it's be with them, walk with them on their journey. Also recognize that this is not a it's not a one size fit all. Even when God works with fire, he works with us differently.
Right.
His principles are the same, but it works with us differently. So just because, maybe in my journey this X, Y, and Z helped, I'm not going to tell someone this is exactly what you have to do. No, it's how can we walk with you on this journey and help you explore how God might be, might be working with you right now. And
Right.
let the person guide you, because you want them to feel it's their life. They have to take ownership of it, and with God's help, they can. But we should not be putting ourselves in the driver's seat, or should we be trying to play God in people's lives?
Right. Right. Exactly. And I like what you said about, I say the same thing. Don't, for people who accompany, don't label them. Sexual abuse, especially, has a stigma. It manifests in a variety of ways, and not every person has all those manifestations. And so it, just don't label them. I agree
Yeah.
with you. And also, healing transformation is a lifelong process.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a journey.
Right? You have to be willing to be with people in the long haul. It's not. I listened yesterday. Well, you might have to listen for the next 10 years. And it's not saying that, it's going to take someone 10 years to reach that point. But even when people have healed, this might still need the time, every once in a while, a safe place to process. Because
Right.
when you've been traumatized, not only we talk about the whole, inner stuff that happened, but it's not just like a self-esteem that goes down or sense of identity, but trauma actually changes the way your brain function, because trauma impacts certain parts of your brain. So even how people process day-to-day stuff, you'd be like, why are they, like you said, it was an incident that was maybe a 5 out of 10, of the stress level, but then it ended up at a 10 because of, again, past trauma, because the lenses through which you see life is not the same that anybody else. Right. So realizing that people, even who have been, even those of us who have been healed, and we're here helping others, we have moments where we still need a safe place to process.
Right.
And it's okay, if you're going to walk with people, be in it for the long haul. It's a journey. Yeah,
It
I
is.
can say, well, we talked about this already 2 years ago. You were doing so fine 5 years ago. Why are you bringing this up again? Well, maybe because I heard or seen something that, triggered that. So be with people. Yeah, be willing to do it for the long haul. And if you're not able to do for the long haul, make sure that you are referring people to others who can walk with them in the long haul.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. And it's, you and I can talk about this for a long time. And I know I say this for many of, the topics that we discuss here. But again, I bring those topics, to the table because of things that are close to my heart. Um, but so how can people connect with you? Where can we get the book? Where can we follow you and stay in touch with you?
Well, I have an email. I have a website. You could go to my website.
Be
It's
good, yeah.
AnneMarieRichardson.com.
Okay.
So that's Anne with an E, Marie, Marie, Richardson. And so there I have an email contact. I've got links for the book. I've got some true testimonies from other survivors.
Mm.
And I have a blog. So that's probably the best. I would go that route, and then it has everything there that people need.
Good, good. Yeah. So we will also make sure that we post that link in the description here that people can just click on and go check it out. But thank you so much again, and for being here, and not just here physically or virtually if you want, or and talking to me today, but just using your experience like to help others, turning those stumbling blocks into treasures, into stepping stones so that we could help others on their journey as well.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you
my
so much.
passion, is to
Yeah.
see people become more free
Hmm.
and live live life.
Yes.
And thank you for having me. I so appreciate it, Shu.
You're welcome. My pleasure.